Dani, where the fuck are you? Clark mumbled to himself as he scanned the crowd. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, Dani panted breathlessly as Paula kissed her way down Dani's neck, her hands running up the other woman's skirt. Dani needed to get out of there, ASAP. But with Paula's tongue against her neck and her hands inching closer and closer to where Dani so desperately wanted her, it was hard to think. Running her hands through Paula's wild mane, Dani grabbed a fist full of the other woman's hair and pulled Paula's face from her neck, their lips crashing together, tongues coming together in a blissful collision. Suddenly, the room was too hot, making Dani want to shed her clothing. Tugging at Paula's blouse, she pulled it from the skin-tight skirt and began undoing Paula's buttons. Showering every inch of newly exposed skin with kisses, Dani made her way down Paula's chest until she was face deep in the other woman's cleavage. Gripping the back of Dani's head, Paula held her close, tossing her head back as she groaned. A loud bang came at the door, followed by a woman's voice. "What the hell, man? I have to fucking pee." The interruption was like a bucket of ice water. What the fuck was Dani thinking? Pulling back from Paula, Dani ran a hand through her hair. Paula took Dani's withdrawal as a sign that they should stop and began buttoning her shirt. Then, when both women were decent, Paula opened the door. "Ugh, took you long enough." The woman scoffed as she pushed Paula to the side. Resisting the urge to deck the woman right in her face, Paula allowed her to slip by. Paula stepped out of the bathroom and turned, expecting the woman she'd just been making out with to be right behind her. But she wasn't. What the fuck? Where did she go? Paula thought to herself as she looked around. Her thoughts were interrupted as Mikey made his way over and leaned into her so that he could be heard over the music. "Paula, this party blows. I want to go home," Mikey yelled over the music. Paula scanned the crowd, desperately searching for the woman. She didn't even get her name. After a moment or so of looking and trying to ignore Mikey, Paula said fuck it and turned to her baby brother. "Yeah, let's get the fuck out of here," she said. Mikey gave a fist pump as he followed his sister back over to the VIP area. After bidding their father and uncle goodnight and promising to get lunch with them tomorrow, Mikey and Paula slipped out the back. "Dani, I've been looking everywhere for you. Where have you been?" Clark yelled over the music. To Dani, everything sounded as though she were underwater. Her heart pounded loudly in her ears, and everywhere Paula's mouth had been felt like it was on fire. Trying to yell anything to Clark over the music was useless, so Dani simply grabbed his hand and began walking. Luckily, he didn't ask any questions. He simply allowed her to drag him out of the club. Since no one knew what to expect at the end of the night, Jackson instructed Dani and Clark to meet him back at Dani's place. So, hailing a cab, Dani and Clark made their way back to Dani's place. Upon making it inside and finding her father sitting on the couch, Dani was hit with a pang of guilt. How could she have been so dumb as to let herself get so swept up like that? She knew better. Her father had trained her better than that, and he'd be disgusted to know what went on in that bathroom. "How did it go?" Jackson asked, looking back and forth between Dani and Clark. Clark laughed. "The Levines are like a fucking secret club. I couldn't even make it to the back of the club. But your girl here made it into the VIP area," Clark said, hooking a thumb in Dani's direction. Dani's stomach did backflips at the mention of what she'd done. "So any info?" Jackson said hopefully. "No, more than half the time that she was in the club was spent in the bathroom with Paula." Just thinking about it made Dani's stomach churn. How could she have been so dumb? Dani looked at her father, and she instantly knew that he knew something was up. One of the many downsides to having a cop for a father was that he not only knew her like the back of his hand, but he could smell her deception like a bloodhound. Clark, could you give Dani and I some privacy?" Jackson asked, his eyes never leaving Dani. "Fuck. Sure thing, boss," Clark said. After bidding the father and daughter a farewell, Clark made his way to the door. Following behind him, Dani locked the door before leaning forward and allowing her head to rest against the door. "Dad, I fucked up," Dani said with a sigh. Jackson's heart skipped a beat at his daughter's words. "Fucked up how? Did you blow your cover?" he asked worriedly. Dani shook her head. She couldn't even bring herself to turn around and look at him. I kissed Paula in the bathroom," Dani said after a moment. The world stopped spinning as Jackson froze in place. "You what?" he asked, unsure if he heard her correctly. Dani took another deep breath and slowly turned around. "I don't know how it happened. One minute we were dancing, and the next we were in the bathroom, making out," Dani said, unable to even look at him. Silence filled the room as Jackson struggled to make sense of the words that had just left his daughter's mouth. "Does she know who you are?" Jackson asked after a moment. We didn't exactly do a lot of talking. Dani said sheepishly. Did you have sex? Jackson asked. Oh, Dad. Come on. Dani yelled, her hand flying up to cover her face. What? I'm asking as your father, not your boss. Jackson said. Okay, first, asking if I had sex with someone is weird regardless of who you're asking it as. And secondly, I'm not some slut, Dad. Dani said. Never mind the fact that there was no telling what would have happened had that lady not needed to pee. Fucking someone in a nightclub bathroom doesn't make you a slut, honey. Jackson said, taking Dani's face in his hands. That was one thing Dani loved about her father. He never judged. He always said with all the shit he'd done in his lifetime, he had no room to judge anyone. So does she know who you are? Jackson asked. Dani shook her head no. Good, we want to keep it that way, he said with a nod.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, hit that thumbs up, and maybe share it with a friend or two. For more LGBT stories, visit the royalbluenetwork.lgbt today.